Welcome back to the Middle East Show, and once again, I'm so happy to have my dear, dear friend and brother, Gilad Atzmon. Gilad, we were talking about terminology here, so let's get into that. Let's have some examples of the terminology.
It is very, very interesting. I realized in the last few years, and I'm writing a book about it now, that each term that that is used in order to refer to Israel, Israeli crimes, and so on, is actually misleading and is there actually to let Israel and Jewish power off the hook. It is very simple. For instance, Zionism. We are not allowed to mention the J word in the context of Israel. We always refer to Zionism. But Zionism has very little to do with contemporary Israel. Zionism was the promise to bring the Jews from the diaspora to Palestine, to Zion, and to civilize them by means of nationalism. But once Israel was established was founded in 1948, Zionism from an Israeli perspective finished its role. Israeli people don't understand what Zionism is. Zionism is a diaspora discourse. It is there to differentiate a Jew from Golders Green who support Israel from another Jew in Brighton who may oppose it. Why do we attack Zionism if it has nothing to do with Israel? It makes Jews feel okay being Jews, while their Jewish state is committing crimes on their behalf. Mm-hmm. This is something that is imposed on us.
Well, this is similar to us, I think, in my opinion, for American citizens, for instance, being able to blame the government. Well, at the end of the day, the government does reflect us. And while the Jewish state of Israel continues to be able to wear that title, whether the Jewish people of the world like it or not, it is actually representing you. It does so in the most profound of ways, even to the point of using Jewish symbols.
It is indeed an absurd that Israel defines itself as the Jewish state. I joined the Israeli army at the time because I was a Jew who lived in Israel rather than a Palestinian. Yet the Jews within the left and the so-called progressive stop us from targeting this issue. And this may explain why after 65 years of Israel, 100 years of Palestinian liberation, the Palestinians have achieved nothing.
Yes, yes.
Now, another beautiful and devastating, I would actually say, example, colonialism. Israel and Zionism are presented to us as colonial project. Nonsense. Colonialism is a clear material exchange between a mother state and a settler state. Israelis are definitely settlers, but where is the mother? Who is the mother? There is no mother. I presented this criticism a while back, and then some Jewish anti-Zionists realized, and the Palestinians collaborators, saw that they should revise this notion of colonialism. They invented a new spin, a dysfunctional theoretical baby. They call it now settler colonialism. I checked out what settler colonialism is. Settler colonialism is that when superpower A manages to send or settle ethnic minority B in a land C, that's something that may lead to an apartheid or whatever later, you know, to the indigenous, to do with the indigenous population. But this is not the case of Israel or Zionism. It was actually the Zionist enthusiasts and activists and leaders such as Chaim Weizmann and Nordo and many others who managed to push superpower Britain to promise the formation of the Jewish national home in Palestine, i.e. Balfour Declaration. So the order of event is actually Jewish Zionists pushing pushing a superpower, which means that already in 1917 we were dealing with a very, very strong Jewish lobby in America and Britain, and obviously we can talk about it, how it was done. So again, this is a spin. Apartheid. I just read actually a very interesting book about apartheid and comparison between South Africa, and there are a lot of similarities. But Israel is not apartheid. Apartheid is a system of exploitation. Israel wants the Palestinians gone. And again, why do we deal with apartheid? Why do we deal with colonialism? Because it is much more convenient for Jews to think that Israel is as bad as Britain or France at the time, and it may mean that there is a post-colonial stage. But no, if we are dealing with a unique Jewish national project that we don't understand because we are prevented from looking into it, we don't know where it ends, we don't know what are the possible consequences, and we don't even allow to understand the history of this movement.
Well, this is I think, a very, very good example of just how important attention to detail with regard to language is. And when we're not allowed to use the proper language, we can't really solve our problems. To take this to another level, you've talked about something which is extremely important, and having worked on issues regarding Palestine for many years now, I find it very insidious, an excellent example of how powerful infiltration can be. And when we talk about the boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign, you have helped reveal something which is really amazing, the change in the mission statement of the BDS campaign. Now, while I think any sensible person would agree that we should not be giving our money to any institution that is actively involved in policies that equate to genocide or torture or death. But on that note, I have to say, I think Israel has a really strong argument when they say we're being unfairly pointed out here, because I don't understand why there's not an organized boycott against America at all. I don't understand this. How could the American nation avoid an active boycott from around the world and have that be the most strongest campaign ever, when in fact this nation, my birth nation, has committed all of these crimes? So in this sense, I actually really agree with the Jews and the Jewish people, and the people of Israel in particular. But the bottom line is, let's talk about this boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign and the change in the mission statement.
Yeah, this is shocking. Back in the 2005, the BDS movement was formed, and it came up with 3 mission statements. And the first mission statement stated that the movement is against colonization of all Arab land, full stop. A year ago,
and this is when 170
Palestinian organizations are signed.
So they all signed on to this mission statement. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
18 months ago, I realized that this mission statement was changed. It said we are against the colonization of all Arab land occupied in 1967. Now, this is a crucial issue, because the initial statement was obviously referring to 1948 as well as 1967, and it opposed actually the existence of the Jewish state. This was the issue of this first goal statement.
So
this has been done. This has been done without in a clandestine manner. I started to look into it with the help of some major academics that are involved in this discourse, and we were very quick to find out that the guy that actually made the change already in his book was a Palestinian activist named Omar Barghouti, who, by the way, in spite of the call to boycott Israeli academic institutions, he himself studied in Tel Aviv University, which is slightly peculiar.
Since the BDS is also calling for academic boycotts as well as...
Yeah, the part of it is, which is, by the way, I'm not against the BDS movement, but I do have an issue with an academic and cultural boycott. I actually believe that for the benefit of humanity, we must be committed to freedom of speech. And ideally, here today, we should have the Zionists who would argue with us and present their cause. And we should be open to the possibility that he may be right. I think that we wouldn't, but
the real issue here is that from the way I see it, is that infiltration is one of the least understood issues of our time, and yet it's so blatant. Let's say, for example, the United States Congress.
I'm not sure that it's infiltration, and this is a very interesting. When I started to look into it, I found out that a lot of European money. It's not a secret, is a lot of EU funding, American funding finds its way to Palestine, and a lot of money from the Open Society Institute that actually is associated with George Soros, who is also a liberal Zionist who funds the J Street. So, the thing is that they don't need, we can just follow the money trail and understand why some Palestinians, like Omar Barghouti, for instance, are easy to compromise the most precious Palestinian principles.
But is that not the vehicle? The money comes in. That's the vehicle to allow for the infiltration. Once you've got people on the inside, now you can manipulate the discourse. I know this intimately well because while I've done my best to try and help in the Palestinian cause, mostly by exposing my government in the EU. I've constantly experienced the problems with inside the movement itself, to the point that I find it pretty much impossible to even work inside of the so-called solidarity movement because of the politics, because of the political correctness, because of the insanity and the circus, as I call it. And I believe that this infiltration has occurred. And it's quite masterful. I have to say, I have to give credit to those that are using these tactics because they're extremely effective. And trying to expose it is actually, it's a bit of a task, to say the least.
They are very, very successful in paralyzing the Palestinian people. What are NGOs and civil societies? They are actually systems that are there all over the world, not just in Palestine, they are there to neutralize young dissent. You see, oh my God, this guy is gifted. Let's pour some money on him and see how he reacts. And they react.
And this is the state for Palestine right now, actually. They are, per capita, the largest recipients of humanitarian aid on the planet. And I look and I see this process very similar to the way I see black Americans, who ultimately, in the aftermath of slavery, and then they turned that into sharecropping, they were still slaves. Then they were supposedly free, really free, and they hooked the black people to a large degree on something called welfare. And under the welfare state,
you turn nation, oppressed nation into beggars.
This is what's happening to the people of Palestine. And it breaks one's heart to see this, because the best within Palestine are effectively being bribed by these NGOs, because these NGOs come in with so much money that they can pay several times as much as the private sector in Palestine can pay. So all the best gravitate towards the NGOs. But once they've got them in the NGOs, now they can control the discourse. They can control where the money and the energy is being directed. And this is exactly what's happening, to the point that we see a system in Palestine, which is really the system that receives the money, is set up to facilitate so-called security for the oppressor.
I totally agree. Now, when we look at the situation in Palestine, we should take it as a test case of a paralyzed solidarity movement and a paralyzed liberation movement. I don't know what we can offer the Palestinians now, but what we could do, we can clearly spot and detect the tactics that was used, that has been used and is still used in order to manipulate the discourse. We can easily identify the bodies that are corrupting this discourse, the bodies within even Palestine. I mentioned Omar Barghouti, people who clearly compromise on precious principles. with the hope that at a certain stage justice may prevail. You know, I'm not an activist. I've never been. I never participated in a demonstration. I don't believe in these issues. I believe in the real meaning of the First Amendment. I believe that once we start to say what we believe in, what we say, what we think, what we feel, the world will change accordingly.
Well, and with that, Gilad, I have to say thank you so much for coming on this program, because it is absolutely 100% sure that you have the kind of conviction and strength to speak honestly and frankly, and I think this is exactly where we need to go in this world if we're really serious.
I feel the same about you, brother.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Great,
fantastic
man.
To have you.
Pleasure.
And with that, I hope to have Gilad on many, many more times, and if I have my way, he certainly will be here. So on to the next segment.
Do you want to sponsor this program or advertise with us?